It's the Ides of March, which means people are talking about Julius Caesar, so I thought, let's talk about this, the Pugio, which was the dagger used to assassinate Caesar. And just to be clear, this isn't an edge blade, okay? This is not a dangerous weapon. Right, on to the Pugio. The Pugio was famously associated with the assassination of Julius Caesar because it was the weapon used, and here a pair of them appeared on a coin which commemorated the event. Aside from its use in a very famous historical incident, there's a fair bit of a debate around what it was used for and even how it came to be in the Roman army at all. And there's a really good study, and it's called Pugio Gladius Brevis Est. If you can get a copy, read it. It's really, really interesting. Quite niche, but again, if you like this kind of thing, probably worth picking up. One of the main points is its size. Mine, for example, is 14 inches with a 9-inch handle, so it's quite short. And people have speculated as to how useful that might be on the battlefield. And it's a good question. When would you use it? Why would you use it? I think we can reject a general assumption that this was an all-in or all-use knife you'd have around camp. That's probably not the case at all. And in fact, the study I looked at or just cited has argued quite well that it was used in a very specific scenario, namely when you were in real close quarter fighting, and the fact that the gladius was simply too unwieldy. Let me demonstrate. Here we've got my Pompeian gladius next to the Pugio, and the Pompeian gladius is around 27 inches long with a 19-inch blade. Nasty. And then, of course, you've got my Pugio, which, as I said earlier, is 14-inch long in total and a 9-inch blade. The argument then is relatively simple. It's about how close you are to the enemy. In some instances, even the gladius might be considered a bit unwieldy. You were really tucked in, and therefore you'd need something that was, well, very personal, and that was obviously the Pugio. The study I cited makes a couple of other really interesting points. One, that these may not have been given out as a universal piece of kit. So the Pugio wasn't standardized kit. The finds of it are restricted to specific areas, and that are the frontiers of the Rhine, the Danube, Britain, and in the centre part of northern Spain. And that might have been because the types of enemies or opponents that the Romans were fighting in those places, it might have favoured that kind of engagement. And the point about it being in central Spain, or northern central Spain, also goes to its origins, because it's been largely argued that in fact, like the gladius itself, the Pugio was probably an import. It was something that the Romans saw working well, were exposed to it, and decided to make their own version. And so they think it was Celtiberian, which is northern central Spain. The fighting cultures across Europe changed. Not everyone did things the same. So apparently in northern central Spain, the Celtiberian tribes, they would often fight with daggers, and they'd often fight at close quarters. And of course, if you're engaging with an enemy in that region, you have to adapt into how you might fight with them. In terms of when it was adopted into the army, it's not mentioned by Polybius, who does give us quite a good understanding of what the Roman army kit looked like. And so again, it's been argued this would have happened towards the end of the 2nd century BC, so perhaps between 130 and 100 BC. This time that this really started to become something the Romans realised was useful and needed. Anyway, bit of a longer video. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is not real, okay? This is not edged at all, so please be nice. And if you've got any questions or you like this kind of stuff, hey, just click follow, leave a comment, whatever's easiest for you. Take care.